TitleMatchNetwork.com.
What are your memories of Fred Ward?
Had no time for him. He was a fat bastard, a thief.
Why is that?
Because that's what he was.
Just a
Yeah,
bad person.
he was a bad person. He treated wrestlers like secondary citizens, and I wasn't going to allow that. To me, he was just a fat bastard that had one little town.
Right.
I had worked for Jim Barnett. I had worked for Fritz von Erich. I had worked for Johnny Darrell and the Sheik. I had worked for Frank Tooney. I mean, I had worked for big-time wrestling promoters and drew a tremendous amount of money by this time in my career. And for this fat piece of shit to try to tell me anything or try to screw me out of money,
Right.
I had no time for him at all.
Do you regret working for Ward and not Dunkel?
No, I didn't work for Fred.
Okay.
I worked for Jim Barnett. Fred Ward had two towns. He had Columbus and he had Macon.
Right.
I didn't work for him. He was a promoter. I worked for Jim Barnett.
Okay. Back then, how dirty were the promotional wars?
Pretty dirty.
Right.
I mean, it was serious. It wouldn't be, they come around the arena, they cut your tires, take a shot or two at you on the highway,
Right.
try to run you off the road, things like that.
You also worked for Bill Watts. What are your memories of working for the Cowboy?
I love Bill Watts. I never had a problem with Bill Watts. All the stories I hear are probably true, but I never had that kind of relationship with him. Once again, I met Bill when Bill was beginning to become a promoter in Oklahoma. Fritz von Erich and Vern Gagne and him went in to help Leroy McGurk, and I was sent in to be one of Bill's assistants. And I never had anything but good times with Bill Watts, every place I was ever at.
I was going to ask you, do you think his reputation as a bully is warranted?
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen anything firsthand, or?
Not directed towards me. To others, yes.
Right.
But never to me.
Anything you want to talk about regarding Bill, or?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example, Ox Baker. Every time Ox would have a match, Ox was a big, awkward guy who drew a lot of money. He wasn't the greatest mechanic in the world, but he was quite an attraction. And to me, the most important thing was, do you sell a ticket? Will people buy a ticket to see you? And if you can make people buy a ticket, I can work around you. I can put people with you that will make you look good. You don't have to be the greatest in-ring performer, but if you have the ability to make people buy a ticket, then I will take the time to surround you with talent that would make you look better than you really are. Where Bill's attitude was, he would book whoever he thought he wanted against Ox, and the matches sometimes were not too good. And I remember a couple of times he would come back and Bill would say, "Are you ever going to learn to work? You're the worst worker I ever met in my life," and really running down really, really bad. So Ox would come to me and he'd say, "Gary, am I really that bad?" I said, "No, Ox, you're not that bad." I said, "Who the hell is Bill? He don't know how to work either." So a few days later, same situation in the dressing room. Bill gets on him again, screaming at him. And Ox stood up and he said, "Well, how would you know if I could work or not? Because you damn sure can't." And Bill said, "Well, how would you know?" And he said, "Gary Hart told me." And Bill turned bright red. I mean, just like steam coming out. And he just shook his head and laughed and walked out of the room.
That's great. You once called Jerry Jarrett a thief. Why do you say that?
He's a thief. He's a bum. He's a pig. He's a piece of shit. I'll tell you a story. I was in the Carolinas for Jim Crockett. Mr. Crockett was a quality man in every way. I was here with Rip Hawk and Sweet Hansen. And Jim Barnett called me and said, "Gary, I'm doing my final tour in Australia, and I'd like to have you to be part of it." So I went to Mr. Crockett and told him that Jim Barnett had asked me to come back on the final tour for Australia. And Mr. Crockett knew the Fullers who was buying in to Australia. And Mr. Crockett asked me, he said, "Gary, would you do me a favor?" He said, "I know that when a new operation takes over, it's going to be some difficulties. And would you mind, trying to be as helpful as you possibly could?" And I told him, "Of course, Mr. Crockett, anything I can do for you, I'd be more than happy to." And I went off to Australia with that intent in mind. And Brute Bernard and I were the only ones of the crew that were cooperative. Mark Lewin would do nothing for the Tennessee Talent, Chris Ikea, Mario Milano, Bulldog Brower, the Steiger brothers. No one would do anything. So Brute Bernard and I really became, the guys that got them established. And I wasn't looking for praise, or I wasn't looking for a thank you. But they never bothered to say thank you for what you've done here for us. So I left Australia, went back to Texas with Brute Bernard and Missouri Mauler. Had a nice little run there. Then Jim Barnett called and asked if I would come to Atlanta. And oddly enough, at that time, Missouri Mauler and Brute Bernard went to Atlanta too, but they went for the Gunkles, and I went for Barnett. Now, I had been Brute Bernard's manager and friend for many, many years, and had a real good relationship with the Missouri Mauler, and made a lot of money with both these guys. So we knew that we were going to competing promotions, but that was not going to affect the way we felt about each other. So when I got there, Bill Watts was the booker, and everything was going really, really well. Bill had some real problems with Fred Ward, and Jim Barnett sent him to book Florida and brought in Jerry Jarrett. Now here's a guy that looked down at wrestlers, thought that they were someone to abuse. I had just helped his uncle in Australia and his cousins, did everything in my power to help them be successful. And he comes into Georgia, and he's going to tell me who I'm going to manage, how I'm going to manage them, and what I'm going to say and do on TV. And I said, no, that ain't the way it is. I don't work for you, I work for Jim Barnett. He's very happy with me. I've been very successful with Jim. If you have anything to say to me, you tell Jim. So one day he told me, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to straighten you out. So I slapped him around a little bit. It was no big deal. He's a 160-pound guy. Right. I was 280. I'm a Chicago kid. I'd been in street fights since I was 6 years old. So it was no big deal. But he was very disrespectful to me. So I straightened him out.
How did that resolve after that?
I got fired.
Okay. I was going to ask you what happened. Did you leave Georgia on bad terms after all that?
Well, I don't think it was good terms, right. But it didn't affect my relationship that badly with Jim Barnett, because he also sent me to Florida.
I was going to ask, I guess, when in your career did you start getting more involved with booking? Around what year was that around?
From 1963.
Okay.
My deal was with a promoter. When I managed a guy, I was responsible for who he was wrestling, what match he was on, what angles he would work, the interviews that would be laid out. I was responsible for all of that. So as someone that was manipulating my guys really very, very early on, and then when I got involved in the booking as an unofficial booker, right, would have probably been 66, 67 with Fritz. Even though Danny Pletches would have been the booker of record, I was more or less responsible for a lot of the angles and a lot of the talent selection.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.